Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of Sexpectations, Untangling Rape Culture and Gender Norms. We are joined today by Natalie, who I'm going to let introduce herself in just a moment. We're going to be talking today about body image, self-esteem, and that intersection with social media. And so Natalie is pretty much a subject matter expert in these things. And so I want to give her the opportunity to talk a little bit about her background, and then we'll get into some questions. So, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you. So, I am a licensed clinical social worker and have been practicing in the mental health field for about 10 years. I started in just general mental health and substance use. And then for the past 7 years, I've really been focused on eating disorders. And I have my certification as an eating disorder specialist. So, that's really been my main concentration. I opened my own practice, breath and balance psychotherapy, where our goal is really to have a safe space for people to talk about their challenges with their self esteem, with eating, with the culture, like we'll talk about today, and really give people some skills, help them learn about themselves in that environment. So, yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I think it is great to have someone who is focused in this area to be able to share a little bit about your experience and how, I think it's cool to also see how you have grown in the field as social media has grown and these trends have changed, bringing you to where you are now and how that what you're seeing in that area. So along those lines, today we're going to be talking, a little bit about social media and self-esteem and trends and all that stuff that we are seeing, all the time. Social media, I think, has been a real gift. We're able to connect with friends and family, but at the same time, it kind of has also perpetuated or even in some ways created a specific standard of beauty, normalized, one type of beauty or something that we're looking to attain, typically like white, thin bodies. We're looking at a lot on social media. We're being inundated with that as the standard or the norm, when in fact that's not the case for a lot of people. But we end up in this cycle of seeing it on social media, seeing people reply and comment to that, seeing people grow with their influence, and then sort of internalizing that oftentimes as what we should be looking to attain or achieve. And the other thing with that, not only does it impact self-esteem, but pivoting to how we're seeing it within our office, the BPVA office, we're also seeing how self-esteem impacts people in relationships, impacts their expectations, for themselves, their boundaries for themselves, but also for their partners, right? What are they seeing on social media that tells the story of what, a relationship should be like? I feel like social media has given us a lot of shoulds, right? Like, what should you be doing? And in this field, we don't really like to operate with shoulds because there is no standard. But we've definitely seen, people's self-esteem be impacted, but also their idea of what a healthy relationship is, what are toxic behaviors or what's expected of you. So I think that there's a huge intersection in those things, and that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. So if you feel comfortable, it would be great if you could share, from your perspective, from everything you've seen, how, these social media trends, influencers, that's like a whole category of jobs that a lot of even young kids are looking to do now. And just like social media usage, this increase in that, how has this shaped people's, self-image from your vantage point?
Absolutely. And, just the term influencer means I'm influencing you.
Right.
right? So their job is to have you believe a certain thing that they're trying to sell. So like one big thing I recommend is kind of looking at what is their purpose, right? Like, is there a product or is there something that they're pushing, right? And at some of them will put like hashtag ad. I think those are really important to look at. So is this person really, oh, this product has changed their life, or are they being paid to say, this is what's great for you? So I think it's really good to kind of do a little homework and kind of notice like, what is the purpose of this post, right? Is it somebody that's sharing a personal experience, or is it somebody that's trying to sell me something? So I think those are really important to kind of look out for. One trend that I think is super harmful is this like what I eat in a day
Mm,
kind of posts. So I think that especially for people that are vulnerable to eating disorders or already have their own eating and body image challenges, I think it kind of like you said about that, the shoulds and the comparisons, right? You're looking at, again, what is this person trying to push, right? Are they trying to kind of push this idea of this is the best way to live, or that like, look at me, this is what I do, and this, your life can be just as great as mine, which again, I think with social media, even if you look at them and say, wow, I wish I had their life, you're seeing such a small blurb, right? It's like their highlights, not their behind the scenes kind of background stuff. And I know it can feel like we know them so well, right?
mhm.
Like, oh, but they share everything and they're showing this and they're showing that, but we really don't know these people. These people are just getting in front of their camera and telling us what they want to share, and we really don't know a lot about them at all. So I think definitely kind of thinking more critically. But I would really kind of shy away from those like what I eat in a day type of things, or even, who is this person, right? Are they really credible for like what they're sharing that they're eating? Um, and then I think people also get really kind of stuck on, how many likes they get,
Mhm.
right? So like, is my picture that like I think I look good in, I post it, oh, it only got a few likes, so maybe I don't look good, right? And kind of basing your whole self-worth on these likes, I think can be really dangerous
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I think those are really helpful things. I never really thought about the what I eat in a day video because I think they're really popular on TikTok. And people showing you these things. And like you said, social media also encourages everyone to be an expert in something. Right. So it could just be a person who does not have any background in nutrition or health or social work, right? And are encouraging you to follow their lifestyle because it works for them, and it gives them desired results, but it's not necessarily applicable to everyone, and that can be really, really triggering. So
Mhm.
definitely, yeah, that's something. Even you saying that now, I'm realizing how impactful that trends like that can really be on people's self-esteem. And also I always think about this with influencers, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well, right? When that's your job, like you said, they're getting paid to sell you something, their whole job might be to make presentable, aesthetically pleasing meals all day. For a lot of people, that's not really accessible, right? Or to be in the gym for 4 hours a day, which is probably not healthy for most people and not an accessible thing to be pushing on people. Because then I think for a lot of people have shared, they feel inadequate if they're not meeting those really, really high bars, when in fact that's a lot of people's jobs, right? Is to do those things every day. That's how they're getting paid. So yeah, thank you for sharing those things.
Yeah.
um so we really focus on dating violence, domestic violence, sexual violence, things like that. And we have noticed that there is an overlap in experiencing those kinds of trauma and eating disorders, that there is a correlation there. And especially with self-esteem too, like how having your self-esteem really impacted by abuse impacts your relationship to your body, right, to yourself. or the other way around, right? How your relationship with yourself impacts the way that you feel you deserve to be treated. So can you talk again from your perspective about this relationship between self-esteem, eating disorders, like relationship violence? Do you see any correlations?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I see, and especially related to social media too, is the comparisons. And I think the dangerous part of that is it can lead to, well, my situation isn't as bad as that person, right? So if somebody's sharing something traumatic they're going through, oh, well, I've never experienced that, so I must be okay. And I think that's really dangerous and really minimizes and invalidates someone's experience. Another kind of correlation that I see is one of the biggest misconceptions with eating disorders is that it's just about vanity and wanting to look good and lose weight and all of that, where a big underlying issue is control and wanting to feel in control. So eating disorders tend to come out more when things around somebody feel out of control. So like times of change, so like going to college can be a big catalyst for an eating disorder. I mean, if a relationship is feeling out of control, that could be a big catalyst to develop an eating disorder. So I think there's a big correlation with this feeling of, I don't have control over my relationship, or I feel like I don't have control over my relationship or over this. So let me focus on what I can control, which can feel like my body or can feel like what I'm doing there. So, and then it just snowballs to the point where it's not in your control anymore. It's that false sense of control.
Yeah.
So I think that really can play into those different topics.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And if people watching this have seen some of our other content or have interacted with VPVA, they'll know that, I am always talking about power and control, and that being the root of the types of violence that we see. And like you said, that's where oftentimes there's this overlap when there is control being taken away from you in your relationship, but this feeling, like you said, this false sense of control of being able to, this is the one thing in my life that I feel I can control. So that definitely being a part of it. And I'll post this as well so people can reflect on it. But when we think about the power and control wheel too, a lot of it involves this kind of like psychological or emotional abuse, where it does oftentimes target people's pre-existing ideas about self-esteem, right? Or going back to the social media trends, right? Like if you don't look like a person on social media, is that being used against you? If someone's seeing a particular trend or listening even to, those podcasts or those dating advice things, and they're not getting that out of their relationship, is that being used to control that person or to manipulate them or to attack their self-esteem of, well, you should be doing this because I saw it on social media. So we are definitely seeing, that overlap of, if it exists on social media, it feels like it should exist in my life too. And that being really hard to reconcile with, because if that's what we're looking at all day, it does almost feel like it should exist for us, because that is, social media is such a big part of our lives. And so, all that to say, because social media is this really big part of our lives, and I have personally tried, the whole like delete Instagram thing, right? And so for some people, they are like blissfully off of the internet. And for other people, whether it's for a job or just for personal things, like are still going to be engaging on social media. And so is there a way that we can post or consume this kind of content that encourages self-love and healthy relationships and these things that we want to do? And especially for people who are in recovery from an eating disorder or are currently experiencing an eating disorder, how is there a way for those people to be on social media and not feel the pressures that we've been talking about?
Yeah. So, social media, they target you based on what you're looking at.
Mhm.
right? So like how many times have you been talking about an item and then there's an ad for the item, right there. And so the same thing goes with just content, like if you're following certain influencers that are promoting diet mentality and are promoting all these things, you're going to keep getting flooded with that. So I think the first thing I recommend is kind of going through the people you follow and kind of doing a little bit of a cleanse of like, which accounts like bring me joy, make me feel better rather than the ones that make me feel worse. And I think, if you're looking to kind of switch the algorithm and find, more inclusive, more, body positive pages, I think one thing to look for, it's called Health at Every Size. So Health at Every Size, or HAES, is a big movement with professionals that work with eating disorders. And it's really about being weight neutral and inclusive to everyone about their health. So it's very anti, using BMI as an indicator, which again is very racist and is very just a poor indicator of health, and really looks at, how can we treat, individuals with respect, no matter what their size is? How can people be healthy in any body size? Does body size really indicate health? And, doing things that are good for us. So I think if you're looking for people to follow, people that do take that approach, that, anti-diet, body neutrality approach, would be good places to start. And I definitely have a list of people that I recommend following. And just to show the power of it. So I've been following, all of these, Health at Every Size and all these different, body positive influencers. I don't really get flooded at all with diet things or with, people promoting weight loss products or anything like that. I think, because my algorithm has changed so much. So it might take time to kind of make that shift, but I think the more you focus on like, who am I actually following, you'll get flooded with different things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great point. I've noticed that change myself in who I'm following and monitoring, again, like you said, what are they like, is their whole Instagram a promotion for something, or are they, trying to show you an unfiltered version to the extent that you can on social media, right? So we'll definitely include that list that you said if people are looking to kind of start making that shift, or are interested in the Health at Every Size mentality and that movement. We'll definitely share those things. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit to, talking about you and your specific services, because you do, support a very particular group of clients. So, who can benefit from breath and body, you said, who can benefit from coming to you? How can they get in touch with you? And what can they expect if this is someone's first time seeking support? What can they expect from that?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is a nice thing that we offer is in-person sessions. So
Mhm.
talking about, being connected to our phones and screens. And I know with COVID and after COVID, there's so much that's virtual. So we have an office in Morristown. So we do offer in-person sessions, which is not always feasible for everyone based on distance or scheduling or things like that. But I do think it's helpful to have that offered as a way to form connections, in real life. But yeah, some things that we really like to focus on is improving your relationship with yourself. If you want to improve your relationship with food, even if you just want to better understand like how your emotions connect to yourself and your current situation. We work again with a lot of, transitioning from school to college or from college to graduation, or, again, like after a breakup or changes in, relationships. So we really like to offer support, number one, to get to know yourself, and also offer you tools. Like, I'm really stressed. Like, how can I cope with this stress? Or how can I set this boundary? Or how can I, just communicate more effectively. So those are definitely, things that we like to work with and to help you kind of remind yourself, what am I in control of in a healthy way, right? Like I'm in control of what I say, what I do, healthier ways rather than these more unhealthy ways of trying to seek control.
Mhm.
So you can find us online. So breathandbalancepsychotherapy.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Breath and Balance Psychotherapy. And all the contact info is on my website. So there's definitely lots of ways to get in touch. And the last thing, I know I didn't mention what to expect when you first come in. So, I really take an individualized approach. So I know it can be scary asking for help. We never would ask you to talk about things you're not comfortable with. We really like kind of go at your own pace and, what you're ready to work on. And, if there are things that, I feel like, okay, maybe this would be a good thing to work on, it would always be a conversation and a way to collaborate together. So there's no pressure. There's no, feeling like, oh my God, they're going to tell me I have to change my whole life. And, it's definitely like going at your own pace.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll be sure to include, how to find you as well for people who are looking for that support or have questions. You've provided so much helpful information. So even if people, can find things on, like you said, your Instagram, maybe that's a new person you want to add to your following list, to get that information, to be able to ask questions, and even just to check in, like you said, with, what is my relationship to my body, to food, how are all of those things connected with my environment. So yeah, we'll be sure to include those things. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to add, you wanted to share, anything that you'd like us to include or talk about before we're finished here?
No, I just encourage everyone to kind of think critically, when you go online. It's so easy to just get sucked into that tunnel and vortex of scrolling. So just, try to be mindful when you're looking at things and kind of asking yourself those questions, when you are online. I think, like you said, it's not realistic for everybody to, just totally delete everything. But even trying to set like time limits, like, okay, I'm not gonna, studies have shown that you shouldn't, the moment you wake up, go and check all of those things. So like, can I at least set a limit that like, I'm going to wait an hour after I wake up to go on those things, or I'm going to kind of limit my time with those things. So it could be like baby steps. I think it doesn't have to be these big changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of this great information.